It depends on the areas.
Just before we let everyone in, just to see if I get it right, the pronunciation is Siafik Hashin. Siafik Hashin. Perfect.
Shafiq. Yeah.
Shafiq.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone is saying now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We have interpretation available. We're just giving a couple minutes so all of our colleagues can join. Just one more minute and then we can go. Hola, buenas noches a todos. Estamos simplemente esperando unos minutitos más para que nuestros colegas puedan ingresar a la llamada también. Tenemos interpretación en esta sesión. Ya puede ir activando su interpretación si lo necesiten. Vamos a hacer ese taller en inglés, así que los que necesitan pueden activar la interpretación. Igual, 3 minutos ya, entonces que... Hello everyone, my name is Mateus Valois. As you can see here in the bottom of the Teams meeting, I'm one of the youth advisors to the Inter-American Scout Committee, and I would like to welcome you to this first webinar that has the objectives to brief the NSOs on the different changes made on the rules of procedure developed for the 29th Inter-American Scout Conference to be held in Curacao in this October. So this session is being recorded and it will be sent to all NSOs in the following days. And just remembering, interpretation is being provided. So if you want to listen in Spanish, follow the instructions. Thank you to our interpreters. And if any assistance is required, please write in the chat and one of the staff members will support you. I'll say this bit in Spanish. Tenemos interpretación en esa sesión, entonces si necesiten escuchar en español, pueden seguir las instrucciones. Quiero agradecer muchísimo a nuestros intérpretes que están aquí y si necesitan de cualquier ayuda, pueden escribir en el chat que uno de los miembros del staff los va a ayudar. So, back to English. Award Scouting. Create a safe and inclusive space for everyone is always a priority. So during the session, let's treat each other with respect, kindness, and fairness. Living up to our Scout promise and law, everyone has the right to express themselves, and we expect all interactions to be respectful. Any form of discrimination, harassment, or harmful behavior won't be tolerated. So if you need help or want to learn more about our safe from harm procedures, please visit scout.org/safe from harm or email us at safefromharm@scout.org. So just before we start, I would like to introduce the following people who will join us today. So we have my fellow members and friends from the Inter-American Scout Committee, Ruben Perligero, Arturo Leon, Jose Luis Vargas, Megan Pearson, myself, and Miguel Calle. And as well as we have our amazing team from the World Scout Bureau Inter-America Support Center, Gianna Carrillo, our regional director, Alfredo Muse, Montserrat Lopez, and Madre Alejandra Inofuentes. And also we have some very special colleagues from the Global Sports Center, Winnie Maruthli and Sifak Hashim. So A special thank you to our volunteer interpreter, Mafe, for her incredible support and translation this session for us. And without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Diana.
Thank you, Mateus. Welcome, everyone. Now we will talk a little bit about the agenda for today, for this briefing session or webinar, and thank you all for joining. We will go over a few points, providing participants with first an introduction of what the rules of procedure are and how they were developed for this regional conference. And second point, we will address the key proposed changes and improvements in these rules of procedure compared to the previous regional conference. We will also have a walkthrough of some of the key dates towards the conference included in these rules of procedure so that you keep them in mind. The fourth element that we will review is how to vote and engage in the referendum to vote for these rules of procedure. And then lastly, we will have the last 10-15 minutes for questions and answers space for also you to ask some of the questions you might have on the presentation. For the questions and answers specifically, we will be using a Slido. Hopefully you are familiar with this platform, but don't worry, we will share that later also, but you have that in slido.com, whether joining by a code that you see on screen, or also with the QR code that you can see on screen. You can join now, and as we go through the presentation, you can start posing your questions. And when we arrive at this last session, this part of the webinar, towards the end, we will answer those questions. So feel free to send your questions anytime. Don't forget also to include your name and your country for us to follow up if necessary. And we will answer as many questions as we can in that part of the meeting. So with that, I would like to welcome again Ruben Perlingueiro, the chairperson of the Inter-American Scout Committee, for the welcoming words of this webinar. Over to you, Ruben.
Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to remind you that today many NSOs celebrate the Scout Day, since it's the day of St. George, chosen by Baden-Powell to be the patron of the Scouts. And 2 days ago, there was the death of Pope Francis, who always had close contact with the Scout movement. So I'd like to give our thoughts to Pope Francis too. Well, it's truly wonderful to be here with you today and see so many familiar faces connected. We are slowly getting up for the Inter-American Scout Conference this October in Curacao. One of the first important steps in this journey is the preparation and adoption of our rules of procedure, ROP, for the regional conference. These rules will guide our decision-making process, key deadlines, and ensure that everyone is aligned as we approach the event. The rules of procedure are proposed by the Inter-American Scout Committee and shared with our NSOs for review and eventual approval. I look forward to walking you through the proposed updates. These are designed to ensure an inclusive conference, a space where young people are truly empowered, a conference with transparent and effective decision-making process, and one that reflects best practice and good governance, and a sustainable conference too. We will go over updates that are meant to embed successful practice from previous conference and ensure continuous improvement, including clear language, streamlined procedures, and enhanced accessibility. Let's work together to make this conference a milestone for our region and for scouting in the Americas and the Caribbean. Now I give the floor to José Vargas.
Thank you, Ruben. What is the RRP? The regional conference operates under the guidance for two important documents. The first document is the regional constitution, as it defines the fundamental principles of the governance. It defines the regional conference as the highest governing body in the region, and also establish who often the conference takes place and provide another essential information. Show us who was voting rights. This document also determines that the regional conference adopt its own rules of procedure, and that is the Inter-American Scout Committee is responsible for provide the proposal of the rules to the regional conference. The second document are the rules of procedures. This document explains in different chapters exactly who decision making in the conference happens. It is described voting process, candidate election, who gets in the state in this stage, and who delegation shall be formed, and so on. It is described in details the proceedings points. In other words, these things which happens is according with the Constitution of good governance and best practice. The ROP shall be put for referendum in the regional conference. We will get into the process late in our presentation. The development of the process, the processes for the RRP, the rules of procedures are approved for each regional conference. This gives us the opportunity to strengthen the decision-making process and learn for past world and regional conference, as well as the form other similar gathering around the world. In 2017, key changes were made on the World Scout Conference role procedures to strengthen the overall decision-making of the World Scouting to make the process more inclusive. In 2022, we adopt the roles procedure to accommodate different modalities of running and events, and launching with the learnings the World Scout Conference held last year. The Inter-American Scout Committee is now proposing this role procedure. The review was done by the team that included both experts in decision-making process, good governance, and the World Scout Constitution. We wanted to make sure the new proposal read better, avoid duplication, and that the different parts are articulate. The Inter-American Scout Committee endorsed this proposed role procedure at the meeting in early April. Now, the next topic is for Matthew. Mateus.
Sorry. Yeah, got it. I was just having it happens some internet issues. But yeah, thank you, Jose, for the explanation. And let's just go through an overview of the improvements and changes. So the proposal is that the regional committee is putting forward includes the following improvements: aligning the rules of procedure to the words rule of procedure at the best practice where applicable, and making sure the rules are easier to read and understand. That is really important. In making existing processes and practices clearer and more transparent for accountability, and as well as outlining clearly the various roles and responsibilities of the various conference officers. We will now hear about the areas where there is a change compared to the rules of procedure used in the previous confederations. So, following the conference resolution 2021 7 of the World Scout Conference, ensured work would happen on two important areas. We have been working on this and efforts of increasing youth engagement in decision-making processes in different activities and events over the past few years, and this conference will not be different. The proposed change in the rules of procedure is that each member organization is encouraged to ensure that at least 1/3 of their delegates and observers are under the age of 30. The research we did on this topic also showed that 77% of the NSOs saw the presence of young people in their delegations at the World and Regional Conference as critical to contribute to Scouting's youth engagement strategy. For clarity, 1/3 is used here because that reflects WASM standards to achieving meaningful youth engagement in decision-making bodies. But to go over the next subjects, I'll hand over to Arturo.
Sorry, I was mute. Thank you very much. Yes, I will now continue the explanation. First one related with the deadlines. We have made some adjustments to the resolution, to the rules of procedure about considering the timeline of the draft resolutions that the regional committee is proposing. So now the resolutions that the regional committee do will be received by the member organizations before the draft resolutions were submitted. So this will enable member organizations to discuss in advance and better prepare their own proposals and resolutions. We'll review some key deadlines of times in this presentation later. And also, we have made an adjustment in the functions of the resolution committee. What exactly the change that we have made? Whenever the resolution committee decides to refuse a resolution, the previous text said that they just decided to refuse it, and mainly that's it. Now, a clarification was introduced to specify that if a resolution is decided to be refused, then the resolution committee must share with the NSO and the steering committee of the Inter-American Scout region the reasons of that refuse. And then, if applicable, they will also offer warranty of adjustment that could be made to be possible that the resolution could go ahead. And also, in terms of voting, the most important improvement that we have made is that we are proposing to bring all the voting protocols in the rule of procedure in exactly in the area of voting. In the past, all the procedure of voting was just in different parts of the document. Now we decide to put all the voting procedure all together. And also, we are making a clarification on the definition of what do we understand as simple majority, and also what do we understand as 2/3 of majority. And also clarifying existing practice in the voting amendments that follows exactly the same protocol and majority as the main motion. So that's mainly some of the changes, but I will now share the floor with Miguel that will speak a little bit more.
Thank you, Arturo. Um, Also, we want to talk about the candidates' diversity and the requirements. Although the rules of procedures and the regional constitution do not specify a quota, the proposed rules of procedures for this conference reinforce the principles of inclusivity and equitable representation. And with this, we want to invite all members organizations to consider this when nominating a candidate for the Inter-American Scout Committee or for the youth advisors. This is to ensure the candidate pool is more diverse. Following previous world and regional resolutions, member organizations are invited to especially consider women and young people who have the skills and willingness to be volunteers in these roles. And talking about youth advisors, we want to make a clarification on the age required to be a youth advisor. On the nominations to be a youth advisor, it was clarified that the age limit is 26 years and 364 days, as this can be up to interpretation with the previous texts. So with that, I want to pass again the floor to Ruben, who is going to talk about other changes.
I have some technical problems. 1 minute, please.
No worries. I can share that, Ruben, if you don't mind. It's just general changes on the writing style, the wording, some simplification of the terms in the document, and also detailing a little bit more the structure and the composition and responsibilities of the different conference officers, including the steering committee, the resolutions committee, the credentials committee, and the tellers. These officers, as you know, play a vital role in ensuring that we have a smooth, fair, and transparent operations of the regional conference. So, for instance, the steering committee is the one in charge of leading the management of the plenary sessions and ensuring that the procedures of the conference are followed, and also that we have inclusive participation from the delegates in the conference. The resolutions committee is responsible for reviewing, refining, validating the draft resolutions put forward by member organizations, ensuring that they are clear, actionable, and aligned with WASOM principles. The Credentials Committee, on its part, is in charge of verifying the accreditation on the voting rights of all participants according to our Constitution, and while also ensuring safeguarding and the legitimacy of the decision-making process. So verifying the quorum, for example. And lastly, the tellers are the ones who oversee and validate all the voting procedures, ensuring that we have accuracy of the voting system and also a fairness in the election outcomes on the critical votes that we'll be taking at the conference. Together, all of these bodies and committees ensure the integrity of the regional conference, ensuring that the outcomes and the decisions taken are credible, democratic, and representative of the collective will of the member organizations in our region. So those are kind of like, again, clarification of a style, some terms, and the flow of the document. Hopefully, when you read it, it will be more clear and understandable. So now we will go to the next session to share with you some of the important dates and timelines to remember. So I will pass again over to you, Arturo.
Thank you very much, Diana. So we will move to talk about the timeline. I think this is really important that you have really clear information, and also that you're really sure about all the times that are involved in the conference. Remember that the conference uh, is not just the official event that we will have, but it's also a big process that now is ongoing. So it's really important to be sure about all the times and deadlines that are related with the regional conference, to be sure that everything is going well. So we create a few timelines for you that I will share with you. As part of our preparation for the regional conference, uh, these are the most important deadlines. The first one is the official notice of the conference that must be sent at least 6 months in advance. So we have shared with you on 5 of February 2025. So this official notice has been made on time. So that's the first time that, as I tell you, officially start all the process of the conference. Then also a draft of the agenda must also be shared in 6 months in advance. So also in that date, you receive the draft of the agenda. So the idea is that you have enough time to prepare all the proposal things that you want to share. So the agenda has been sent. And also, if a member organization would like to submit proposals to be considered in the agenda, this must be submitted 5 months in advance. So mainly that time has gone. So that's it. Yep. So these early deadlines help us to ensure that the regional conference could work really well, that is well organized, and all the process be as democratic as should be. So and now at this moment, we are working on the official final agenda, and we will share that with you as soon as possible with mainly most detailed information about that. Also, as mentioned above, we have some officers of the conference. So it's important, well, as you know, the officers play a really crucial role in the working of the conference. So it's important that if you want to make a nomination for the conference officers, those must be submitted at least 4 months before the conference. So be sure about the times. And the appointment by the committee will be done 3 months in advance. So we are just in time for these two parts of the agenda. Then I want to talk a little bit about the constitutional amendments and resolutions. Um, firstly, I will talk about the constitutional amendments. Those need to be submitted early, so they could be in touch with the World Government's committee, but also with the regional constitution committee, and need to be reviewed also. So to ensure the compliance of those proposals, and also to ensure that those proposals go well on our constitution and in terms of the World Scout constitution also. So as is detailed on the Article 44, constitutional amendments should be circulated 120 years, that means 4 months, before the regional conference. And observations, counter proposals, or amendments of the first proposals can be submitted up to 60 days prior to the event. So be sure to, if you want to make amendments to the Constitution, to be sure that, to share it 4 months in advance. And then I will talk about the resolutions. Draft resolutions prepared by the regional committee will be circulated at least 4 months in advance. So it's just the same 120 days as the constitutional amendments. And the members' organization could also submit their own resolutions up to 3 months in advance. So they have one more month to prepare any other resolution that they want to work on it, that you want to work on it. So all the resolutions then will be circulated by the regional office no later than 2 months before the conference. So all the National Scout organizations will have the time to prepare, analyze, discussing around NSOs, all the proposal of resolutions that will be done. And then any amendment to those resolutions must be submitted no later than 3 weeks prior to the event. So you have mainly a month to work on the resolutions and to prepare any amendment that you want to make. Then, at least about the deadlines, any emergency resolution could be accepted up to 24 hours after the opening session and must be circulated 12 hours of that deadline. So remember, that's just for emergency resolutions. Just to be sure about that. Once the rules of procedures are approved, these lines will go to the regional conference website for the reference, and you will receive from our office all the reminders about the deadlines, so you'll be sure that all the process will be done on the time that we are proposing to be done. Additionally, there will be webinars about all the proposals made, so we could ensure that everybody understands all the proposals of amendments and also clarify any misunderstanding that could be on those proposals to ensure that when we arrive to the conference, everything is clear for everybody. So it's really important to attend those webinars to ensure not just the participation, the democratic participation, but also to ensure that all the national scout organizations know exactly what will be voting on the conference. So we will be really glad to see all of you on those webinars. Then, at least about the deadlines, all the times about the nomination. The open call for candidates will be distributed at the end of May. According to the provision of the Article 13A of the regional constitution, member organizations can nominate candidates to the regional committee no later than 30 days prior to the opening date of the regional conference. And also, these 30 days will ensure that all the National Scout organizations will have time to review all the presentations, all the informations. So the regional committee and the regional office will share all the profiles of all the candidates to ensure that all the NSOs will have all the information to make their better decision. Pre-games are also be planned for candidates to prepare and be informed about the candidates. Uh, Finally, I want to tell you that you can find all of the documents together in tamarica.scoutconference.org. Those will be all the documents in digital format. So if you click on Documents tab, and you will find all the documents that you need for prepare to the conference. So now I will give the floor to Diana to continue.
Thank you, Arturo. And I know it's a lot of information, so please make sure that you follow the newsletters, that you also go to the website that is already on, and you can click there. And also, if you have any questions, you can still post them on Slido, or make sure you connect with us or any member of the regional committee, and they will be happy to connect with you and to guide you through this process. Now we're going to talk about how to vote for these rules of procedure. You have received now 2 weeks ago the rules of procedure, the draft rules of procedure proposed by the Inter-American Scout Committee. You also received the format, the template to provide your vote if you are for, against, or abstaining of this vote through electronic ballot. So these rules of procedure, as shared in all of these timelines, must be approved by the member organizations well in advance of the conference, because these are the rules of the game, and this establishes the different timelines that we as in the region are going to follow. So these are very important. These are part of the first steps, and this will also ensure that all the delegates have time to learn about all the decision-making processes that will be followed in the regional conference according to these rules. So now with these rules of procedure on your side, member organizations, you are able to cast your vote, whether you agree, hopefully yes, with these rules of procedure. So the deadline to send this your vote is next Tuesday, April 29. I repeat, next Tuesday, April 29th, is the deadline for member organizations to cast their vote. Then, once we have the results, the referendum results will be communicated the next day, on Wednesday, April 30th. If you have any questions regarding the approval of the rules of procedure, the template, or anything related to this process on the rules of procedure, we encourage you to send a communication or email through interamerica@scout.org. And just for reference on how this referendum works, for it to be valid, at least 50% of the member organizations need to vote by the deadline. I think to date we have only one vote. So we encourage you again to review them and to proceed with your vote by the deadline, again, April 29th, next Tuesday. To be able to vote, remember that your member organization needs to be in good standing with the World Organization of the Scout Movement. And you know by now how that works, because last year we also had a world conference. That means that you cannot be provisionally suspended. If you still have questions, you can reach out. And then for the votes to be carried, of those votes, member organizations vote in favor and against, the vote is carried. So this means that we're looking basically for a simple majority. So we need that voting. Please remember again that the deadline to vote and send your electronic ballot is next Tuesday, April 29th. And probably that's going to be my favorite phrase for the day, for the day. Next Tuesday, 29, is the deadline for you to vote on the rules of procedure. So now we have made sure, sorry if we were running a little bit, but we wanted to make sure to leave enough space for the questions and answers. As shared in the beginning of this webinar, we shared the Slido we shared the Slido link. So we're gonna share now it on the screen. You have it on the in the chat. So we'll review if we have any questions for us to hopefully provide some of the answers. So you can join at slido.com using this code 4721462, or just scanning this QR code that you can see on screen. So we will be now having around 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes to capture and respond any of your questions around the rules of procedure. We reviewed today basically some of the changes that we've done to these rules of procedure proposed by the Inter-American Scout Committee to align better with the World Scout Conference rules of procedure, considering the regional constitution and also the best practices on good governance, youth participation, etc. Hopefully, when you read them, they will flow better. So any questions that we can see? Let me just look at the screen here. I don't think we have questions at the moment. That means that maybe we haven't read them, or maybe they're perfect and no one has any questions. Can I get out the slides just to get an indication if I can see everyone? I know some people have their cameras on, some people they don't. But can I get an indication with the reaction if you have already received the email? That's the first part. Have your NSO received the email with the rules of procedure and the template to vote? Can I just get a thumbs up to see if you have received them with the reaction or with your hand in camera? Okay, that's good news. Okay, good. Now, the most important question, will you cast your vote before the deadline, Tuesday, April 29? Can I get thumbs up? Okay. Good. Okay, so let me just check. I'm just making some time if someone has any questions, any burning questions, to get them on Slido.
Diana, I think we have a question on Slido.
Yes, Winnie, please go ahead.
The question is, what happens? I translated to English. It's what happens with the rule of 30% of young people in the delegation if the country can only send 2 delegates. So just to answer that, it's encouraged that a third of the delegation is young people under the age of 20. So if you think about it, 6 delegates are allowed, sorry, and 2 of those delegates, if they're under 30, it should be in compliance.
Thank you,
Does that
Winnie.
answer the question?
Yep, I think, well, if you have any other questions, please let us know through Slido. One of the one of the main topics and for discussion of the and the proposals of the committee is to actually propose more youth engagement, also following the resolutions from the regional conference and from the World Conference. So hopefully you will consider beyond the number, the 30%. I think it's important for member organizations to consider young people also as delegates to the conference. Okay, and I'm also reading here in the chat that Panama has already casted their vote. Thank you. Hopefully this will inspire others. Okay, so any other questions? Are we getting other questions on Slido? No? Okay. That means that you will be reading them throughout the weekend probably, and then you will come back with questions if you have. But I just want to say a big thank you to the regional scout committee for leading this process, but also to the team, the wider team, to making sure that this new version of the rules of procedure for this conference is well thought, aligned with best practices, and easier to read. I know it's a long document, but trust me, it was longer. Those that have been around know that it was longer, and sometimes it was not as easy to follow. So we tried our best to make it easy for people to understand what are the rules of the game while being at the conference. So if we don't have any other questions, I think we can proceed to the closing and make sure that everyone gets some time off before the end of this webinar. So I will hand it over to Ruben to provide his closing remarks of this first pre-engagement of the many more to come, and we hope you to see there.
So it's time to conclude. Thank you for joining this session. We hope you have gotten answers to some questions and gotten some insights too. We will put the recording of this webinar and the answers to the question on the conference website in the upcoming days. I'd like to remind you the referendum on the rules of procedure are open until Tuesday, April 29, as Diana said. Thank you, and looking forward to see you all in Curacao in October for the Inter-American Scout Conference. Let's say into the future from the Caribbean Sea. And if you allow me, I'd like to close with the following words of Pope Francis addressed to the Scouts. The Scout movement is a sign of encouragement for young people because it invites them to dream and to act, to have the courage to look to the future with hope. I invite you not to be discouraged by the selfishness of the world, not to close it in our and on yourselves, not to be inactive young people without ideals and without dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. See you around. Gracias.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. See you soon.